635 CSI. Now, if you're watching this video, it's because you have the 0261 200 018 EGS and DME combo. That's your ECM and your TCM, but it's in one combo unit. There's two units. I'll show you in a moment. This is just the cover. Probably having problems with it. Now you can verify if you're having problems with it. Well, an easy one is it's just running like shit, and putting in a different DME seems to fix it. Or it's still not quite perfect, but you know, maybe it was running rich, or maybe it wasn't running at all. You put in a different standard single DME. Standard DME, this one obviously question mark faulty, 0261 200 059. Lots of people call them the 059s. What you'll find, this will 100% connect up to the connector here, of course, but on the body side, there you go. Even though there's two on your combo unit, even though there's two, it will still connect up. The key here, the little slot there, will be the same, and no problem. You'll get it in. It will run pretty good. Not great. However, if you've clicked on this video, it's because you have this one. And this here also has automatic engine, or has electro-hydraulic control for the gearbox. So why is that a problem? Well, if you spotted earlier, you will have noticed that in between the transmission control module, or the EGS and the DME, or either way, they're actually kind of the same, which I'll explain in a moment. In between them is this ribbon connector, which is not obviously found whenever you've got this. You know, there's nowhere for the ribbon connector to go, so your DME will sit there, and then your EGS will sit, if it's on an E28, it's off to the left. I think on the 635 it sits maybe underneath it. Either way, this will not work completely. Your automatic will not work. At this point, I have two suggestions for you. One is keep watching the video. That's the hard option, probably. The cheaper option, but the hard option. And the second one is easier, and it's probably better in the long term. If you're not worried about keeping the car stock, it would be to do a manual swap, because it's a little bit of work to update this into this. Now, why can't you just fix this? That's probably what you're thinking right now. Felix, why did you not just fix this? Well, I tried. I checked that diode, I checked that diode. They seemed like they might have been faulty. This one's like kind of bulged a bit, but they all tested fine. And even when I put in like a stand-in one for that, didn't fix it. So the board, it's something else wrong with the board. I'm not qualified, or I'm not, you know, knowledgeable enough to do that. I've got absolutely no idea how to fix one of these. It looks really pretty, but I had a very good long look at this, and eventually I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna put one of these in. So, because this did run, it did run on this. It just, you didn't have transmission because you don't have that. So, right, put this in, and then that leads me down a wild goose chase, because this was actually bad. So maybe keep two of everything just in case, because that was bad. And then I was like, what the f***'s going on? So anyway, that one died, ended up putting another one in. That one's running good, but still no transmission. Here's the fun stuff. So this is where your combi unit is right now. If you're watching this video, unlucky. I believe 735 is on the other side. Don't quote me on that. But here is your current unit sitting in here in all its broken glory. Now, either send it off. I think if you can't fix it yourself, I couldn't. Send it off. I got a quote, $2,000. That's not happening. And no other electronics repair shops would even look at me. Like, they had a quick look and they were just like, You could probably do all the capacitors yourself. So your transmission connector will not look anything even remotely similar to this. First of all, because it's properly assembled. And second of all, you don't have a lot of the wires that go in. So you won't have this white wire because it runs through the ribbon connector. So I've spliced that in there. There's actually two wires that come off the 3-pin that go to the gauge cluster. And yeah, so basically, I'm not going to run you through the entirety, but you're going to have to get comfortable with the concept of repinning this entire transmission connector. And at the same time, I would do a bunch of checks to make sure all of these blue wires with the dots, they go over to your selector. I would get comfortable with the idea of just checking your continuity between all of those, making sure this switch is good. On this car it is good. I should probably put the handbrake on if I'm going to do that. And also you'll have one or two wires that come out of here believe this is just a power and ground for the solenoid, but these are the control wires. That's third there, that little weird one that kind of sits by himself, threw me off. That's just the third gear on the selector switch. And all right, next weird thing. When you're de-pinning this, you're going to find a few wires that will not do anything. Well, they won't do anything on your new one. That's because this is much more similar to a car with the ZF4 non-EH, if that came on the 635s, or the ZF3. Your transmission warning light is set up by a relay. So even despite the transmission connector not being plugged in, if I put the key in, no, don't do that. If I put the key in, you'll see the transmission light is on. That shouldn't be the case, because if you've been looking at your wiring diagrams, you'll see that your transmission light comes from pin 33. Here we are, pin 33, and that is, of course, not plugged in. So how is it doing that? There's a relay on the other side of these that's triggered. You could probably ground one of these out to extinguish the light, but I'm just going to snip it, cover it, and then wire in pin 33 into where that light is right now. So that's one thing. You're going to find a brown and yellow wire, a white wire, and a brown wire. That's actually just your ground, but you need more grounds, so I stole that off a different loom. So you can either add more grounds to this. I didn't, I wouldn't, but you could. And your white wire, which is for the light, and this is your ground for the light, I believe. Or one of them's for the relay and one of them's for the light itself. I don't really quite know, but anyway, it's all blocked off for me, so not a concern anymore. I put my grounds just up in there, not perfect. I will probably move them, but that's where your grounds for your transmission connector will go. You're gonna have, I believe it's 4 grounds. 26 is a smaller gauge wire, and 5 is also a smaller gauge wire, and then you'll have 6 and 19. Those are larger gauge wire, the 1.5 mil. You've also got a few extra things you'll need to run. You'll need to run brown and green. I believe, where does brown and green come from? Brown and green is maybe in the DME. This is one thing. You, having the combi unit, I'll turn the pump off. Having the combi unit are unlucky enough to have a different style of throttle body as well. So you're gonna have to update it to the Motronic 1.0 throttle body with the potentiometer inside here. Don't listen to what people tell you. This is not a switch. There's actually a potentiometer in there, and that's why there's a shield on it as well. Anyway, this shield doesn't reach all the way. I'll have to figure that out at some point. I've just got like a little, this was honestly just to test it, and it worked, so all good. Here is the ground that's part of this loom. You're gonna need honestly, if you can get a whole automatic loom for a 635 CSI, a later one, take that. If you can't do that, manual swap it. If you absolutely can't do that, you're gonna have to start splicing up 535i looms, or 528i maybe, with the EH. But anyway, main thing is, here's what you need, and that little switch there. This only interfaces with the transmission control unit, these 3 wires here. They don't talk to the DME at all, except through how the trans talks to it. So I believe there's a load that you'll have to run, and this is also part of that loom that just goes to the shield here and grounds it, and then plugs in at the back here on that back connector further in, and also there grounds onto the manifold. Here we go. This is what your previous your previous throttle position sensor would have looked like. It was just a series of switch. We've got a ground here, like a reference ground that sits in the middle. That would go to pin 18 on the DME. That'll be pin 3, brown and black, which are now, you don't run brown and black from here anymore, because obviously we're not using the wide open throttle switch on this, we're using this. So your brown and black actually comes from the TCM. So when this is at full throttle, this potentiometer, I believe it closes the circuit, which tells the EGS or TCM, it tells it, hey, we're at full throttle. And then at that point, the TCM has a signal that tells the DME, hey, we're at full throttle. Unlike a manual, where the manual would just use the little 3-pin. Anyway, this is pin 2 on that same connector, and that will go somewhere on the DME. I can't remember. I think it's pin 2 on the DME as well. Yeah, actually pretty simple. This is pin 2, this is pin 3, this is pin 18. It's actually labeled if you're doing this swap, so you can figure that out really easily. So yeah, pin 2, just leave that as is. You don't need to touch it on the other side. Pin 3, cut it off here, and then run one between the TCM and DME where it needs to go, and pin 18 here. Pin 18, I didn't need that ground anymore. It wasn't in use, and plus it grounds out somewhere else anyway. Actually, this is probably the supplemental ground, which goes to, no, I'm yapping. This is that back one there, the reference ground as well, which I just grounded here, and also, like I said, grounds the shield. I'll clean that up later, not a big deal. You run that, I like to run that through here, and then it comes in, and I just cut there was a little nipple there. Actually seemed like it was made for it. It was really tight, but that's what you want. And then it comes in here, 1, 2, 3, and there's the splice that there's the splice for the shield. That one there, I don't know if you can quite see. Yeah, you can see that. Those two, that's your splice for your shield, and then these three are your 3 wires. And they will come over to your transmission connector, which yours will be easier to move because you'll do it nice and neat compared to me. And they'll go into the side here. You'll have to look at pinouts to figure that one out. Next thing I want to quickly mention is, where do you get power? So you need to power, obviously, the new TCM, since it's a discrete unit. Your old DME will have 2 large power wires going into 35 and 18. You don't need to do that. What I did is I pulled that larger power out of the DME because the updated DME just uses the 0.5 gauge wire to the 35 and then teed it off like you can see there. So that way I get a 1.5 straight to my TCM. It doesn't even need that whole wire. You probably could run a 0.5 to it, but better to be safe than sorry. That's what they did. And then you've got the 0.5 that just goes back to your DME for power. That could definitely be neater. I'm gonna have to clean that up, but not a big deal. Next up, I'll pull the gauge cluster out quickly. You'll find that once you've done all this, everything's wired up, you've looked at all your wiring diagrams and confirmed it, you will still have a transmission light. And why is that? It's because it's using the old style, like you might find on a 3 or a 4 speed for the transmission issue light. And this is this wire here on your circuit board connector. I've just realized the little dick's fallen out of that. That's not very good, is it? This one here, red and white wire. You'll run your red and white wire to pin 33 on that TCM. And there's another red and white wire in this, and I'll just cut it back there, heat shrink it off to like cap the old one off, and then bridge that one in so that I can get a transmission light back on the dash. And it should power on, you know, it should have 12 volt when key is in, and then you should crank, and with engine running, the light should extinguish, and that's the current working condition right now. So all the electrical stuff on my side is figured out. You can seriously just use the American ETMs because they have the same wiring diagrams, they have the same DME. They're 059, I don't know if they have 059s there, but they have the same layout of DME and everything, so their harnesses are the same. Obviously not the same as what would have been on the car originally, but we've just updated that. So go through, use those, label where all those pins go, and you'll have pin 34 will be vacant. Doesn't look like I've got any more vacant pins on this side. You can look at what I've done. Pin 31 is brown and black, which goes to your DME, and pin 3, 10, 12, and 13 are vacant. Look, there's a few things you'll need to wire in, few things. These splices are obviously ugly as. This was honestly just a proof. See if I could even do this. It's gonna need a little bit of a tidy up now. Wouldn't describe myself as super mechanical. And while you're in there, look, I just checked continuity on everything, made sure there's no shorts to ground. So you've got, look, pull everything out. Doesn't take long, takes 20 minutes, not even. pull everything out, check your continuity from all of this back, all of that back, check everything to here as well, to this connector, and then check it from here. Also, people who say that, oh, these bulbs need to be working for the transmission to work on the electronic ones, that's just not true. It's its own circuit, and like you'll even see on this one, there's 2 wires coming out of single pins. Like, there you go, there's 2 wires there. One of those will be for the 3 light, and one of those will be going to the TCM, and the same can be said for a few of these. I don't know, look, I'm just realizing now that maybe not all of them have the 2 wires, and maybe if a bulb does go out, it'll cause a fault. No, that doesn't make sense. I don't know, just check, make sure your bulbs are working. It's not that hard. They're cheap little ones. You can solder fresh ones in anyway. While you've got this all apart, let's see if I've forgotten anything. Oh, the only thing I haven't figured out is this large violet wire. It might go to cruise control or ABS, but that violet wire is one of your solenoids. I'm actually wondering, maybe that violet wire is the power for the transmission light relay. Either way, that violet wire joins with one of the violet solenoid wire, and I believe that violet solenoid wire is actually not a solenoid wire. I believe it's just the power for all the solenoids. Also, it is a solenoid. It's this is the positive. So there's a smaller violet wire that goes into your transmission connector, and that should be your 12 volt for all the solenoids in the transmission connector, and then they're switched off the negative side, which is pretty typical. And there's also this larger violet wire that seems to join in with the body loom. I don't know what it does, but I haven't snipped it, and everything seems to be fine. So you can just leave that one and pin it where it normally would go. That one goes into where they all go, on pin 1. So pin 1 is your 12 volt to all the solenoids in the box. And yeah, I don't know, just spend some time with the ETMs, de-pin your old connectors entirely. This is all assuming you can't fix your combo unit, which, you know, they're getting old, they're pretty damn rare. Capacitors test good. People want shitloads of money to give you a refurbished one, and they also want your core back, and there's a chance, you know, if look, there's just a lot of ifs. If you go to the updated unit, these things are everywhere. 059s, they're on shelves. The other TCMs, they're on shelves. And then you've also got the later wiring, so if you ever need to buy a patch harness or make another patch harness, you don't have to go off random, you know, you don't have to backtrace everything. You've already got the wiring set up for that. So say you ever want to put an 8-speed in, well, I suppose if you got 8-speed, you need all the CAN bus shit. If you ever want to do like updated stuff, you've got it all set up properly. So I think this is a good way to future-proof your 735, 635 CSI with that combo unit. Yeah, pretty much, you know, if you got your brain, write everything down. I've got heaps of notes. Here's a quick zip through all my notes. I don't think they'll be useful to any of you, but not that. Here's the old, yeah, so these are the 2 little 9-pin from the selector switch. This is the new one. This is the old one. I don't know which one's which, but you can figure that out. The 6er EGS, so the EGS that's in there right now for you will have 14 unused pins. The 5er that's in there right now will have also the same connector, obviously 35 pin, but there'll be 6 unused, and like I just counted out, there was 6 unused before. Here we go. Here's like a quick little readout. 14 is brown and red, selector pin switch 2, 3-pin brown and white, selector switch pin 1. So that's your little 3-pin that's next to the you know, your selector, program selector, red and white. That's what I've got to wire in still. And then yeah, you get the idea. Colors here, there's one of them neutral input, that one's written wrong, but it's blue, brown, neutral, pin switch, blah blah. You get it, brown or ground. These are the ones full low, so 3 and 10 on the DME is brown and black and brown and green. They go to 31 and 24. Those are easy. These two, 11 and 21, white and black blue. Your black blue might be black, they go to the instrument cluster. You just splice in before the connector to the instrument cluster. And then these are your TPS sensors that you need to wire in 9, 7, and 26. You need to do that. It does not work without doing it. I tried. Also on these, the engine speed comes from the ignition coil, as pin 21 is unpopulated. So for 21, I just ran the wire over to the transmission. Should work fine. But for the tacho, it's taking it off the ignition coil. Don't read that, that's not useful. Yeah, cool, there you go. A few notes. I don't know if that'll be yours. You'll probably generate neater stuff from that. We would honestly going into this thinking, oh, it's maybe not possible, but it certainly is. I got it shifting earlier today between first, second, third, so it's doable. Stick with it. Do what you got to do. Can take a little while, but that's what it is. You know, you just I wouldn't call myself particularly good at wiring. You can see like that's really rocky, but you got to do what you got to do. These cars are getting old, bits are getting rare. Eventually someone will come along and probably put a standalone in this, and he'll be so grateful, or if it's you even, and maybe even now's the chance to do it, but they'll be so grateful but that it's been updated to the wiring harness of a newer car. Same for the DME. It's just a good idea.